We are out here, Shearon Harris. We've got one day to break this lake down. This is a power plant lake, so it stays warmer than most reservoirs through the colder months. There's actually a shad spawn going on, which tells me the bass have been spawning for a while. The shad always go towards the end of the bass spawn and see the shad spawn. I'm gonna pull out a white swim jig. Our first priority this morning was to try to figure out what that water temp is, what phase the fish are in. So I've been running and gunning all morning, fishing fast, trying to cover water. And part of the reason I haven't slowed down is I just haven't gotten into an area where I felt like there were fish around. Water that was too dirty, soft bottom. It's really key to find hard bottom around the spawn. I finally slowed down. I got into an area, I see some hard bottom, the water's a little clearer. It's a hair deeper on the edge of the grass. First pitch for the drop shot. I had a bite. I'm gonna slow down, pick this apart a little bit and see that the rest of this pocket looks really good. Ugh, look at that thing. We are a couple hours into the day now, and it's obvious that there's a pretty decent amount of fish up on beds. From what I've seen, I got some bites on that drop shot earlier, and what I'm gonna do is not lock that thing in my hand. You know, that's a mistake I've made a lot of times. I get a few bites early on something, that's all I do the rest of the day. And I've learned in pre-fishing, especially on a lake that you don't know, that'll burn you. When the fish get off of that, or if the conditions don't line up for whatever that one thing was that you were doing, you don't have anything moving forward. So I'm catching a lot of these males. It's on a general right there. Sure would be nice to see some bigger fish. Potentially trying some other stuff, and I'm covering tons of water. When we come here for the tournament, it's like 5 days out, so I'm not marking a bunch of specific beds. I mean, if I see a 10-pounder, I'm gonna mark it, but I'm marking areas that have a bunch of beds and a bunch of fish, so I can get into an area when we come back and effectively fish. I'm just mixing it up. I'm throwing a lot of different baits, just trying to also find maybe a bait or a presentation that can get bit really well when I'm out here in the tournament, even if I'm doing a lot of bed fishing in between. So we'll see. We're gonna keep looking. I definitely find, you know, some areas have a ton of carp. Bass will not completely get away from the carp, but they don't like to be around them when there's carp are spawning and going nuts, muddying up the water. It's super hard to catch fish around those things. So I've found there's a lot more bass when I get out of the carp. So same thing. I mean, I'm marking these areas that have tons of carp so I can stay out of them when the tournament comes around. In the pollen mats. It's the first big bite of the day. It's hilarious. Look at this pollen behind us, guys. I saw it and I was like, man, I can't see a bedfish. I may as well throw a frog. Just like fishing any other type of mat. That's absolutely hilarious. We'll keep doing it for a little bit longer. We'll see. Another good one. A general gone down its throat. Fish don't look healthy. I mean, it's fat, but there's something going on. They're all scarred up. Overall, I feel like we learned a lot. We covered a ton of water. As important as finding good water is finding water that's dead, and we found a bunch of both. So we found some stretches where I feel like I can go put the trolling motor down, be in productive water for a while, and some stretches that just don't seem to have the right stuff. And that's time that we would have had to spend in the tournament figuring that out. A couple key takeaways from the day. First thing we did was we figured out what phase the fish are in. It's full-blown spawn. The water's 65. Saw a lot of beds. One really important thing that we did was we covered a ton of water and fished every section of this small lake. Bottom compositions are going to be different types of grasses growing in different parts of the lake. So we covered pretty much every single arm, fished some big long creeks and some small short pockets, fished on the main lake, fished all kinds of different stuff, and we got it narrowed down. Early this morning I had a few bites as soon as I picked up the drop shot, and it would have been easy to stick with that thing and just keep fishing it around, kind of lock it in your hand. And we talked about how that can be a dangerous thing. It doesn't allow you to pick up on other stuff that might be right in front of you, but you got that one bait locked in your hand. So it's so important to practice to try different stuff. I mean, we fished everything from a vibrating jig to a general to a big swim bait, a frog. They were getting a bit good on the general, which is not a surprise. Anytime you got springtime fishing, you're gonna get bit on a stickworm. And the biggest bite of the day was on the frog, which is really interesting. Overall, we'll see how the tournament goes. Well, I don't feel bad, that's for sure. I feel like we're gonna be around some fish, and by the time I post this, you'll know how it went, so we'll see.